Hello everyone and welcome back to the JP on Comms YouTube channel for an earlier than expected Christmas video. It's not quite the festive cheer I would have hoped to have brought in a video around this time of the year, but nonetheless we are here to discuss Maidstone United's potential nightmare before Christmas. Now of course in the last week or so, especially at the time I'm recording this, recording on the 18th, which is Monday, the 1 week before Christmas. So of course you're expecting around this time of year a bit of festive cheer. Unfortunately, not a particularly great spell for Maidstone at the moment on the road in our last game, and of course with the massive news dropping today that Maidstone star man Levi Mani is departing the club for an undisclosed fee to Bromley. Of course, probably one of the bigger teams in the local region, of course. Not a league side, which is something we'll get into as well in a little bit. But yeah, not a great past week or so for Maidstone. We'll start off with that game against Worthing, a 5-1 drumming, unfortunately, on the road. And it's not the first time this season that Maidstone have really suffered on the road. It's not the first time we've shipped 5 this season in a game either, especially on the road. So we'll take a little look at Maidstone's recent away form. Of course, the last 4 away games, Maidstone have conceded a total of 17 goals. 5 against Hampton and Richmond, 3 against St Albans, 4 of course in the cup game against Barnet, and then another 5 against Worthing. So really torrid times on the road at the moment, and we're going to have a little look at what could be behind that. You know, is there something going on behind the scenes in terms of this Maidstone United side? Are we struggling with confidence? Is there a bit of fatigue? You know, we've had a really busy period. Of course, we had 9 games in November, which of course was really tough. We had a massive game in the cup at home as well, which is going to take it out of the side. For me, I think it's probably a combination of things really. Squad depth is something we struggle with, of course. You know, at times we've seen Reece Greenwich out of the squad for a long period, obviously returning now. We've seen Rafe Brown, who started the season off fantastically well, not featured as much lately. Gavin Hoyt too has had good spells throughout this season, has gone missing a little bit in terms of injury throughout recent periods. And then Chi Ezenolim too. Chi Ezenolim, a very good player, but unfortunately so inconsistent in terms of how often he can feature in the side. So it's really tough for Maidstone at the moment, I think. Just trying to find, you know, that quality in depth. We've got some good players in the squad, of course, and I think we've got a lot of good depth on the bench. But once you start picking up some injuries and those bench players become starters for a period, then we haven't got too much to fall back on. Obviously, we've used a lot of youth in this season, and this is nothing against, you know, Riley Court or anybody like that in particular, the players who are more on the fringe of the squad. But when you're looking to make a sort of a title push, which we have, of course, at points this season, you're going to want those experienced, you know, key players to be featuring very regularly. And unfortunately, it's a lot to ask for, you know, younger players and inexperienced players who might not have had, you know, the stage set for them. You know, it's quite tough to ask them to come in and have a good performance in a very tough game against tough opposition. So, you know, it's a tough period for Maidstone at the moment. I think we certainly should have concerns. I don't think we should be overly concerned. I don't think, you know, the people that you see all the time on the forums and things like that, and occasionally at a game, you know, making their exclamations that, you know, the board need to go and the manager needs to go, he's not right, and all that sort of thing. You know, Maidstone went through a significant period of transition over, of course, the last kind of 6 to 8 months since George has come in. You know, back in February, we saw a long drawn out end to the season, but the plans were put in place to try and revolutionise the team. You know, we've seen a lot of change. And this Maidstone team, you know, for as useful and as youthful as it is going to have bumps in the road. You know, you can't always expect young players who've had a lot of pressure on their shoulders at points this season to go out there and win every game. You know, I don't think anyone's really expecting that, but sometimes that seems like the attitude from some people. I understand, you know, there's a difference between not wanting to win every game and then not expecting to lose 5-1 more than once this season. So I do get that, completely get that. It's not really acceptable, but these things happen. You know, they do happen. The best teams in the world have poor spells. They have the odd poor game, you know. Not drawing the comparison between Maidstone and Manchester City, but they're not doing particularly well at the moment. They've got a few injuries in the squad. They're having a bit of a tough time with things, but they're still one of the best teams in their division. Maidstone, definitely one of the best teams in this division. And I think there is some, you know, relations to draw there, and I think we need to stop maybe overlooking things so much, and we need to take a little look at just the good things that Maidstone have done this season. We've had some really good performances. We've beaten a lot of tough teams. Torquay, no slouches at the times we played them. Beat them a couple of times already this season. We aren't a bad team. We just got a few inconsistencies, and I think if we can work on ironing that sort of thing out, this festive period, give the players a break. I've seen a few of the lads have jetted off already. Get a bit of sun in, warm weather. Just try and compose themselves a little bit before, of course, another little festive running coming up. 3-4 games over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be quite tough, but hopefully they're well rested for that. Might see an upturn in results as well. I think our form on the road needs to improve. I think, earlier on in the season, we struggled a little bit at home, not really playing at home that often. We did quite well on the road in significant periods earlier on in the season. I think now we've come home a little bit, we've got a little bit more used to playing at home, a little bit more comfortable maybe, realising this is where we're going to pick up most of our points, and we've maybe just let off the gas a little bit on the road. So, like I say, I don't think it's a huge cause for concern. I think we need to take a little look at just a few areas in the squad and how we're going to go moving forward. But for me, it's not anything to worry about right now. I think we just need to take a little look at ourselves as a team and just recollect going into the new year. This is at times in the past where Maidstone have really picked up points. We do struggle in this December month sometimes. Last year we didn't get a single point. So, it can be tough. It definitely can be tough. And I think, we'll probably be a bit better going into the new year. We're going to see, of course, that January transfer window open up. I know it doesn't really affect Maidstone that much in terms of outgoings. Obviously, when it comes to non-league, there's going to be National League teams we can get players from at the majority of the season and vice versa. But when it looks at, you look at league clubs, players who might have been out of favour for the last 4 or 5 months of the league season, they might now think this is the time to go, drop down a little bit, find themselves a bit of form, and Maidstone could pick up a few players in that sense as well. And that's where we're going to go on to Levi Mani. Now, taking a look at, of course, the big news from today, Levi has gone. Earlier than expected, I won't lie. I did think a league club would probably be coming in January with a big offer that we couldn't turn down. We've got a lot of money that we need to try and raise for the end of the season. Let's be honest here. I think we've got a pitch renovation that's a couple of years overdue, or at least by the point it gets done. And I think funds are a struggle at the moment. They are. Attendances aren't as high as they were when we won the league last time round. They're not as high as they were at certain points last season. Let's be honest. National League could charge more money, had a few more people coming down, away fans, a lot more away fans coming down as well, and a lot more home fans in the ground at times last season. So, it's a tough period at the moment for everybody in terms of spending. I'm not trying to, write the owners off as any excuse will do for them, but I think there's a significant amount of stuff that needs spending on, and they're trying to figure out where it needs to go. Now, take a look at Levi Mani. Obviously, we would have had offers for him other than Bromley in the past. I'm kind of privy to a few bits of information regarding offers in recent months. There has been offers turned down for him. To my knowledge, you hear things around the ground and people you talk to. My mate knows this mate and that sort of thing. And we've had some considerable offers turned down, to my knowledge at least, or what I'd consider considerable. I think we got about £30,000 is what I've been told for Joe Pigott back in the day, and he ended up going to a league side. So from what I'm hearing, a lot of people are saying we got less than that from Mani. A lot of people are saying we got about that, and a few people are saying we got a lot more than that. So it's really up in the air right now. That's the thing when it comes to undisclosed fees. It's a lot of money. Often teams don't really want to disclose that. They don't want to know. They don't want to let other teams know what they've got. And, any amount of money really at this level could be considered quite a large sum. And I think, Maidstone wouldn't let a player of Mani's quality go for a significant amount or an insignificant amount of money. There's a lot of talk about release clauses and things like that, which is the reason I believe we lost Joe Pigott last time round. Obviously dropped down from League Club Cambridge, had a clause in his contract there for League Club come calling. Off he goes for a little bit less than maybe we would have wanted. But, we got a good amount of money really after just a couple months for Jack Barham last season. There was only a couple months left of the season, and and we got about £10,000-15,000 I think for him, so you'd imagine quite a bit more than that for a Manchi of more than half a season to go, and as vital as he is to this side. So about the player himself, delighted for him, absolutely delighted for him. He's devastating for Maidstone, I can't lie. My favourite player, probably Levi Mani. Devontae was up there as well, obviously gone out on loan, but yeah, I mean it's a tough one to take. I mean, I haven't got to give my dad a £10 now and a bet if at the start of the season he did follow the channel a bit more regularly than, when I was uploading a bit more consistently back then. You would know that I bet my dad that, or he bet me that Levi would score 30 goals in the league this season for Maidstone, or in all competitions for Maidstone. I said, no, you won't. So I'm up a tenner, technically, but I'd rather just pay the tenner and keep him, to be honest. But yeah, delighted for Levi. It's a great deal for him. Obviously, we know Bromley pay a lot of money. We saw with David Smith, I think it was last season or season before that, going there. They offered him a fantastic deal that he couldn't turn down. Probably similar for Levi, and hopefully Maidstone got quite a bit out of it as well. In terms of replacement, obviously that's going to be the big concern that everybody's got. Well, obviously we've got Matt Rush in the side now, someone who's certainly looked like he's found his shooting boots a little bit more consistently of late. Of course, didn't really score much when he first came into the squad a few months ago. But in recent games, I think he's kind of like 4 goals in his last 5 or 6 games, something like that, or similar. So he's starting to pick up the pace a bit. Looks like a good player, obviously coming in from Aveley. He knows the division. He's a good player. But I think we do obviously need another option up front. We can't just rely on Matt Rush to score all the goals. So I think we're going to have to dip into that market. Hopefully with a slightly bigger booty than we had before. With the sale of Levi, of course, a lot of that money is probably going to go back into the club in terms of pitch investment or infrastructure. But it'd be nice to see, of course, some good quality players going in. Now, when it comes to replacements themselves, names and things like that, I was planning on doing a video before Christmas of 5 gifts Maidstone could give me in terms of signings ahead of January. But I think we're obviously now going to be focusing more on a forward player. Maidstone seem to be operating on sort of a 1 in, 1 out type thing. Players we brought in throughout the season have often resulted in seeing a player leave at some point. So I think we are going to be bringing someone in quite clearly. Couple names that I've got. Obviously, you've got Mamadou Fowl. Haven't an absolute stinker this season. Mo Fowl, still a very good player, of course. Was one of the top scorers in the division last year. Would be a fantastic replacement for Levi, I think. Very similar build, very tall, quite quick, decent with his feet. Lots of things Levi was kind of ticking off. So he'd be a good option for me. But very expensive option. Could be a lot more expensive than Levi was, in terms of a weekly wage. Fortunately for them, have a lot more money to splash around than we do. Maybe a slightly cheaper option could be Sean Jeffers, aging. So it is against the transfer policy that we've typically seen under George Elokobi. Of course, in recent months, we've seen younger players primarily coming into the squad. Of course, we've seen a few older, and Harry Cipriano and Lucas Kovalan, a couple others as well, who were kind of in their latter 20s and the early 30s region. But I think for me, Sean Jeffers is going to guarantee you goals, isn't he? Quite clearly, he always seems to pop up against Maidstone. He's always in the top 3 scorers in the division every season, and he plays for St Albans. So not a well-beaten team either. Certainly someone who you'd think Maidstone could attract, but he's got things cushy at St Albans. He probably got a lot of friends there. He's probably got family very local. He is Mr. St Albans, to be honest. They love him over there, so it'd be tough to try and lure him away from there. A player that we were definitely looking at in the summer period, Jordan Greenwich, is at Tunbridge currently. They did manage to pick him up back in August on a permanent deal from Hemel Hempstead, so he's not been there too long, 6 months-ish, 5-6 months. Someone we could attract, whether that would be the right option. Certainly a different dynamic to Levi, not as quick, not as technical, but better in the air. He's a lot bigger, a lot stronger, might allow us to hold that ball up in a different way to what Levi could. Obviously, Levi can do a lot of things on his own. Jordan Greenwich, maybe not as much on the technical side of things, but does have shooting boots. He scored quite a lot of goals last season in the South in not too many games, so maybe with the right coaching, Craig Fagan, George Elokobi, he's going to learn how to beat a defender with George. He's going to learn how to beat a defender with Craig. So, he's going to learn a lot. And, he's another young player. So he definitely fits the bill a lot more than Sean Jeffers does. But again, no guarantee of goals. And not having the greatest of seasons right now for Tunbridge. And then another option is, again, someone who I believe we were looking at in the latter stages of last season, is Connor Hall. Was playing at Chorley, I do believe, in the National League North. Picked up about 20 odd goals for them last season. Ended up earning himself a move to Solihull Moors. Not quite worked out from there, was out of favour. Solihull obviously doing pretty well. And he ended up dropping down to Farnborough on loan. Currently there as well. He's only got a few goals this season in a dozen games or so. But you never know. Maidstone might be the team for him. Someone we've checked out in the past. Must have been looking at him for a reason. If his loan runs out in January, which I believe I see online it does, it's only a 6-month loan. It could be that Maidstone just kind of swoop in, try and attract him, lure him down here. And he's got a bit of footballing pedigree in the family as well. Lewis Hall, formerly of Chelsea. He's related to him as his brother. So it could be an option there as well. So, I've got a lot of faith in the recruitment team. I think some of the players that Maidstone have been bringing in have been excellent signings. Levi is the pinnacle of a fantastic non-league signing. Get him in for nothing. He's an unproven player. We've taken a bit of a punt on him, really, being our main striker for the season. And we've turned that around and made very good money, hopefully, out of it as well. I mean, making any money on nothing is always going to be a good sign, especially for a club of Maidstone pedigree, a non-league team who are looking to try and flourish and become this sort of feeder club for higher teams and higher divisions. Unfortunately, when you're in this kind of non-league region, you're never going to be at the top. You might be top of your division, but there's always going to be bigger fish in bigger ponds. So Maidstone, of course, are going to have to take the hit sometimes and just accept that it's time to move on. But hopefully, we're going to see some top-tier recruitment coming up. I think it's necessary. We're obviously going to need someone to replace Devontae. Going to need someone to replace Levi. Probably going to need a couple of defensive reinforcements with injuries and things like that we've been picking up as well. And maybe some midfield reinforcements as well. Bivesh picking up some suspensions and things like that, and of course someone who's a little bit unproven in the side as well. If we do want to have a kind of late title push towards the last stages of the season, maybe some real top class quality coming in at this stage could prove beneficial later on. So maybe it is a nightmare before Christmas, but a little bit of a positive spin there, of course. It could just be a fatigue thing in terms of the results, getting a few fresh faces in with maybe some of Levi Mani's incoming funds could prove a very beneficial thing for the squad going forward. So a little bit of a positive spin on that one. And of course Levi, we're not a one-man team. We ended up winning that cup game, of course, the FA Cup game, historic FA Cup game. Without him for the majority of it, we did win that game, and we've not done too badly since. Players are scoring goals. Matt Rush has started to come through, and there's going to be obviously replacements on the cards. It's not something that Maidstone would have been caught out by. The possibility of Levi Mani leaving the club since probably about September has been very, very likely. They've probably been preparing for it for months, so I imagine they've got quite a good contingency in place, letting him go this early on. So for me, I think certainly some positives to look at. Obviously a few things for concern, but hopefully going to see a few Christmas miracles coming through the door in the next couple of weeks to try and replace what we've lost in December. So if you have enjoyed this return to the JP on Comms YouTube channel, please do subscribe down below. Do leave a like on the video. Leave your thoughts below as well. Of course, what do you think about Maidstone's recent results? Do you think it is just a blip like myself, or do you think Maidstone could be in a real area of trouble here? Levi Mani going out the door. Do you think we've got potential to bring some good names in? Maybe develop a few more players for the future and profit off further down the line? Let me know in the comments below. That's what I'm here for. Try and create a bit of conversation, as you can tell by the title of this one. And like I say, if you do like this video, drop a like and a subscribe down below. Let me know how you're feeling, and I'll catch you in the next one.